You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Hey everybody, Gail Kraft here with the Empowering Process podcast, and I have my dear friend with me, Tashina King. And Tashina is the founder of Empowered to Success, and she helps entrepreneurs, business people, just people in general, actually break through the barriers of their mindset and bring themselves to a level of comfort, success, and embrace life and what they could possibly accomplish. Tashina and I go way back, and we have a lot to talk about with you today around fears, and the future. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Tashina.
Thanks, Gail. It's awesome to be back. Thanks for having me.
I love it. I love talking with you. This is not the first time we've done video. I don't think it'll be the last time either.
Probably not.
Probably not. So we chit-chatted a little bit around what our thoughts are around fear and the future. And, there's so much dogma even around that, right? Around, what causes this fear. And, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, the fact of the matter is we all have it. We all hesitate, some more than others, with change because it's comfortable in the knowing, right? It's kind of comfortable where we are. And sometimes the fear, and I'll tell a little story for me to get this going, and then we'll switch over to the kind of your thoughts. I was so riddled with fear. I can remember being told, no, you can't, no, you can't. Every time I wanted to do something, and not just as a child, but as a teenager, when I had careers that I was choosing, I was told, no, you can't. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't. And I found myself in a marriage because I was told, oh, you're just going to get married and have babies. And I got married and had a baby. And it was a miserable marriage. And I never told my family what was going on for two reasons. One is, well, who would want me now? I have a baby, right? Two, how can I support myself? I have a baby, right? And three is, what could possibly be in front of me, right? What if I left this man, this situation that I know, what am I walking into? I don't know, right? So that fear, that as uncomfortable as the situation is, you're comfortable in your uncomfortableness until you're too uncomfortable. Right. And, right. And my brother used to say, the pain that you're anticipating is less than the pain that you're in. That's when you'll make a change.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Right. So, so that's just, an example of, for me, holding myself back. And honestly, that's when I grew the most, when I finally no, this isn't working. This is it. I'm not bringing my daughter up thinking this is normal. And put on my big girl panties and went out and did it. And I had such success and such a blast. I'll tell you, I had a blast in corporate America until I didn't for a good many years. So I would have lost out on that opportunity. Right. So talk a little bit about maybe your experiences with the fear of the future and what maybe some of your clients bring to the table.
I found that with, myself and with the clients that I've worked with, it really tends to boil down to the simple beliefs that we have instilled in us at a young age, oftentimes before we even know they're being instilled in us, that change is scary and change is hard. And the concepts of hard and scary tend to lock us in a place of staying stationary and not taking the necessary risks to grow and change, or take big enough risks to grow and change in a way that we want to have a life that we really are dreaming of or yearn for. And so I find when I work with clients, because I work specifically, similar to you, Gail, with the subconscious beliefs that we have and how those allow us to either move forward in life or stay stuck in life. And so when I start working with a client, one of the very first things we do is we work on this concept of change. Because if you set up an action plan for yourself to change careers, leave a relationship, whatever it is that you're looking to create, finish a project, start a business, but you're operating from a foundational belief that change is hard, change is scary, nothing good comes of change, it takes a long time, you're going to be at some level sabotaging the action plan that you have set up for yourself.
Absolutely. And people come to us because they're yearning for change.
Right. And it's really, really incredible because that belief is just that. It's a belief. It's a story that we've told ourselves. So when we change the script that's running in the background of our, processing unit, our subconscious, then change can happen very quickly and it can be fun. It doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. And when a person trusts change, and I think trusting change is a big part of it, and trusting that they can handle what comes with change, then doors of opportunity start to become available to individuals.
Well, so I just wrote down the fun and the trust. One of the mindsets, if you will, or one of the languages that I use for myself around change is, this is going to be an adventure. Mm-hmm. This is going to be fun. And this is just an experiment.
Yeah.
It's just an experiment. And, if it's an experiment, that means I give myself permission to change my mind. Mm-hmm. Right? I give myself permission, like every experiment, to do a little bit and look at the results, do a little bit and then look at the results. Right? So I look at life as my little laboratory, right? And I'm this mad scientist doing all these crazy things. And it makes it fun, just changing the language, right?
Yep, right? Exactly. And I think allowing ourselves to step back into that childlike state of mind, something that you mentioned right before we hit record,
right,
is, when we're kids, we have this fearlessness of trying new things, and we learn from the results of those trying of new things. And then as we grow up through adolescence and into adulthood, we get into our head so much about what could happen, what's the worst case scenario that might come of this. And just even those preconceived ideas oftentimes limit us from growing into the future and taking those risks and making change in our life, because we've projected into what we think is going to be the result. Whereas when we're children, we do the thing and then identify what the results were.
Yeah. Oh, that hurt. Okay. So next time I need to be a little bit more careful, but you still go forward and do it. I can remember, as I think back through conversations that I've had, with my family, the conversation would be something along the lines as though a projection actually happened. Well, she said, and then he did, and then, and I would say, did that happen? Because of the language that was being used. I'm like, did that really happen? Well, no. Oh, so you're making this up? Well, it could happen. Oh, none of this happened. No. Any piece of it real? No. Oh, then you just wasted my time with a conversation on a fantasy, right? I mean, this was before I was a coach, I would be having these conversations, right? Recognizing that I was raised with a family that got into this kind of, future projection that, and I'd watch them get upset and get angry and over something that it's not even real. And waste a lot of time and waste a lot of energy. That's not the same as risk management. I come from a background of risk management, and that is looking at potential roadblocks and then planning to get around them, not having them stop you, but planning, okay, if this happens, what do we do?
Yeah. And it's so important in anything that we do in life to use all of the assets that we have available to us. So the conscious mind and our subconscious mind. And I think that the conscious mind is what you're talking about there, of looking at what are the possible outcomes, what would be the possible routes that I would take to navigate around those potential roadblocks, but also not handing over your power to those potentialities.
Exactly.
And still standing in your own personal power of, these are the skill sets I know and have that won't change regardless of the outside circumstances. And when a person is able to stand true and strong in what those qualities and aspects are, an individual is much more able, willing, ready to take on change and step into the future, because they know regardless of what shows up, they've got a set of skill sets that they can utilize to navigate around whatever arises. So I think for a lot of people, if you're someone that is feeling stuck, unsure of the future, scared of that change, taking a risk, not so much focus on the outside of what could happen. Yes, use your conscious mind, engage with those possibilities, but spend a lot more time focusing on what are your skill sets, what makes you unique, and then owning those and honing those. Right. So that whatever does arise, that's what you pull from. That's when you're able to navigate change and the unknown without being thrown completely off kilter.
Knowing what your innate capabilities are, sometimes people don't realize what they're naturally capable of either. And so that exercise of discovering what that is so worth it. When I work with clients on risk, so when I go from the subconscious to the conscious, we practice the art of planning what if for two reasons. What if this happens? What's the likeliness that will happen? Pretty slim. Cool. Okay. What if this happens? Is that really going to happen? It's potential. Then what would you do? Through that process of continually questioning whether or not it is even possible that it would happen, and then if it does, what you can do, puts you in a position of learning how to become agile. Right? And as you learn, as you know, as a dancer and practicing, as you learn and you hone that skill, you don't even realize you're using it when a potential roadblock or curveball comes. You are able to, look at that, and then just go around it and continue on your path, right?
Yep.
Right. Yep. So, and that's honing a skill set, creating and honing a skill set to be able to deal with change. And that's something we all have to learn to be better at, because life is 2020, if nothing else, is proof you have no clue what's coming down the line. You may think you know. Yes. And when it comes, what are you going to do about it? You don't know. Like pandemic, no one knew. And I remember so much of that year before it even hit, knowing something was coming. And then when it hit, well, this is only going to be 6 weeks. And I'm like, really? Just 6 weeks? It's a pandemic. It's worldwide. Worldwide 6 weeks. I doubt it, but okay, let's see what happens. Right. And I was already online anyway, and just shifted my focus to all of the online activities that were happening and those that were starting to happen. Right. Yeah. It is what it is. So, was there any need to be fearful of the potentiality of a pandemic? Who would have even thought? Right. So back to our original fear of the future. Some of the other things that come up with clients, so I had a potential client. We had a great discovery session, and he has a lot weighing him down. I could feel it in his voice. I could feel it in his energy.
Mhm.
And at the end, he stopped and he goes, I can't do it. I can't do it. I, in the past, have gone to counseling and have worked on my past, and I have no interest in going there again. And even though I said, I have no interest in your pain, I have interest in your healing,
Mhm.
he was so harmed and so afraid of facing that pain. He, even though he's the one who reached out to me, could not go there. How sad.
It's a timing thing. Like you said, I don't know if it was before we hit record or early on in this specific conversation, but about oftentimes the pain is what pushes us to change and grow. And, that in and of itself is a belief, I think, that most of society holds, is that we have to be in pain in order for change to happen. We have to be in pain in order to grow and heal. And a lot of my own personal experiences and those I've worked with, those I've spoken to, is that again doesn't have to be the case. It doesn't have to be the reality. When you're willing to open up and be vulnerable self, when you're willing to face whatever happened or your perception of what may have happened earlier on in your life, you can learn those lessons, and then future lessons don't have to be as hard. Oftentimes the lessons in life just get harder and harder. It goes from a tap on the shoulder to a knock on the shoulder to a push in the shoulder, till you're just, life throws you literally onto the street before it catches your attention.
I say the whole brick wall has to be thrown at me before I wake up. Not anymore, but in the past. Yeah.
Right. And so one thing to consider is moving into the future. Are you expecting that amount of adversity? Are you expecting that amount of pushback? And is that a reason why you're not ready to step into your own healing? Is that a reason why you're not stepping into change and taking the risk because you're assuming that it's going to be, life knocking you on your ass all the time? Or are you in a place and ready to step into paying attention to the nuanced, subtle messages, lessons that we have available to us? And when we're able to learn our lessons so much more quickly, and then change becomes even more fun, and stepping into the future becomes even more enjoyable, because it becomes more of oh, cool, now I can learn this, and this is an enjoyable experience, rather than, oh my God, that hurt so much and it caused so much pain and it took me 20 years to overcome it. So what story have you told yourself about your past pain and trauma, and how is that being projected into the future about life lessons that may be available to you? And again, if you can change your internal subconscious script that, I pay attention to the life lessons the first time around, then the future becomes, I think, less scary.
Absolutely. I was talking with a woman on a whole bunch of different things, and one of them was weight loss. And she had mentioned, actually afterwards, I had mentioned, I said, one of the mindset tools that you could use is to tell yourself that you only make healthy choices for your body. Every time that you go to eat, I only make healthy choices for my body. So she said, so the M&Ms or whatever it was that she had the day before are healthy choices for my body. I said, your body may have needed a sugar rush. So yes, you only make healthy choices for your body. I said, so in the future, when you go to reach for them and you say, I only make healthy choices for my body, so you'll probably pick up an apple instead.
Yeah.
But tell yourself the choices that you make are always healthy. And then if you pick up a handful of M&Ms, you're not guilty about it, because for some reason your body must have needed them, because they only make healthy choices. Because when you're guilty, your body does bad things. right? It's again, your mind and body connection, right? Just, yeah, you can laugh about it. Say, well, look at what I did. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yes, this was a healthy choice. Could I have made a healthier one? Yes, but this was a healthy choice for my body. She was ecstatic. She is so thrilled that she now only makes healthy choices for her body.
Well, the word that really stands out to me in that whole thing is choice.
Right?
And we live in a society, world, and culture where we often, if you listen to people talk, it's always something happened to me.
Right.
And there's more of a victimhood mentality that most individuals live from. And so when that state of mind is where you're operating, yeah, the future can seem very scary because you feel like you don't have choice.
Right.
So to understand and to claim that you do have choice in your life. We as a collective may not have chosen the pandemic to occur, right? But each and every one of us had the choice of how we responded to it.
You want to know something? I chose for there to be a break in the craziness.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I chose for the world to slow down a little bit.
Right.
I know that I chose for us to take a breath. Now, I didn't choose how, right? But how else would the world have stopped?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I saw that as an opportunity to do exactly what I asked for, an opportunity to stop the craziness and take a breath and slow down and reflect. Now, a lot of people, again, fear of the future steps in here because a lot of people felt disempowered when that happened, right? They were in a framework that was not normal for them, and they didn't know how to navigate their day-to-day life, and felt that they felt the victim to the pandemic. And I could go on and on about how the media instilled that. But you still had a choice to how you were going to respond to the situation that you were in, right? You know, and I think we have a backlash from that now. We're still like recovering. Yeah, go ahead, honey.
I think it goes to say that it's not a matter of never feeling like a victim, like, oh God, this happened to me, but catching yourself. I know for me personally, when the pandemic first hit, it was like, God, that's not how I planned on more or less my dance career. And that chapter of full-time dance instruction and traveling coming to a close, there was a moment where it was like, God, this is what it happened to me. This is what was dealt. And then it took, I don't remember, but a week, 2 weeks for me to process that. But it's the ability to then reflect, look at how you're choosing or reacting. In that moment, I was reacting. I wasn't responding.
Right.
So part of being human is that might, ebb and flow once in a while in your life. But again, rooting in what do you have control over? What are your skill sets? What makes you, able to adapt and to change? Even if it's
so
little.
It's the little thing that our subconscious mind is going to always throw the victim card out, throw the judgment card out, throw the blame card out, because that puts you in a protective state. And that's your subconscious mind's job, is to keep you protected, whether it's a healthy protection or not. It doesn't judge that, right? And so it's your conscious mind's job to catch it, like you said, and go, oh, is this who I want to be today?
Right.
Again, it's choice. I found myself for a while waking up every morning and going right into a judgment mode about stuff. And I literally was like shaking my head going, that's not who you are. What is going on that you wake up with this, right? This is crazy, right? And it took me a while to get into my mind and, what's going on? What is it that I'm resisting, that I need to feel judgmental to protect myself? And is it real or is it imagined? And it was imagined, of course, right? And then, okay, well, now you can go because you're not real, and let's deal with reality. And now I don't wake up with, judgmental thoughts on my mind. So we're human like you said,
Absolutely.
right? And we're going to fall into those traps. It's so much easier, and it is work to work on ourselves, and it is work to bravely step into the future. I did an interview with a woman who did something fearful every day for 365 days. And she made a vow not to filter that out, that the first thought that came to her mind that was fearful for her, she was going to do it. Which meant sometimes it was, no, I really don't want to do that. But she committed to it. And what that did was she's now like ballsy as all heck. She's not afraid, right? She's let's go try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try that. Okay, that's working. Let's continue with that. Let's try that, right? She's always experimenting, right? Always shifting perspective and always looking, is this working? Is it not working? And okay with whatever the answer is, right? And changing it up. And I love that about her. I love, and she's open and vulnerable. You can have conversations with her about anything and plan, right? And move forward. That's the thing. Working with her, you can move forward because she sees no roadblocks anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's a really beautiful space to live from.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Pretty amazing. Now, am I saying to everybody, do something fearful every day for 365 days? No. But you can do something that you're resisting a little bit every day.
Or something that's just uncomfortable outside of your norm.
Right.
And just get used to how do you show up in those uncomfortable situations. That is a beautiful practice in and of itself to have reflected back to you, what are your skill sets?
Exactly. I made a confession. So here I am, I moved into New Hampshire, been here now 3 years. And when I first came, networked like crazy. Now, what you don't know about me, Tashina, is I am uncomfortable in crowds. And you do know that if I went to a dance, I was gone by 9:30 because I could not breathe by then anymore, because I'm uncomfortable with the energy of a crowd. So it's not quite agoraphobic because I'll go out, but I start to get a panic attack as I get closer to the crowds. But I push through, and once I'm there, I'm fine. And so I confessed that at a networking meeting that I was in with a bunch of women. And I said, listen, ladies, you have no idea what it takes for me to be here right this minute, right now. Right? I am barely breathing to be here. And they're like, I wouldn't know it. Right? But again, that is fear of what is coming. Right? And I just pushed through that anyway, because I want the end result.
Yeah.
Right.
I think allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, because oftentimes as soon as an uncomfortable scenario or situation occurs, we retract back to what is known and what is comfortable. And when we allow ourselves to just be in the uncomfortableness, yes, it may be uncomfortable, but are you safe? Are you healthy? Is it just uncomfortable and this isn't, something that is familiar? Or is it really life-threatening? If it's life-threatening, of course, you want to find another outlet and remove yourself. And that's where your conscious mind and everything you use, what you have available to you to exit that. But if it's purely just an uncomfortable situation, allowing yourself to be uncomfortable.
That is, I actually have a training that I do. And part of what's in that training are exercises to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right. And, I have a coach that I used to work with, and he said, yeah, like there's a little bit of throw up in the back of your throat. You don't want to throw up, but just like that little gag response. That's about as far as you want to go. Then go try that. Right. Right. He says, because that stretches you. One of the analogies that I was taught when I was training as a coach is the elastic analogy. So you've got your sphere of comfortable, right? This is your circle of comfort. And if you stretch it like an elastic just a little bit and then go back, and then stretch it just a little bit and go back, you'll notice over time that you're not going back quite as far, and you're stretching it a little bit further than you would have maybe a year ago.
Right.
Right. So yes, don't do what my friend did, whatever came up, go and do it, but just a little bit every day. And you start to become accustomed to that feeling, and maybe not get as far back as the 4-year-old who's fearlessly running, in the playground, but darn close. Wouldn't it be awesome to go for something that you see that you want, regardless of what's there, with that kind of love and joy and energy that you had at that age?
Yep.
Right? That's where the fun comes, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
I'm getting all excited. So some of the tools that we've talked a little bit about adjusting my mindset, and we probably use very similar tools. I've worked with you, and I'm pretty sure you use scripts like I do, which are NLP scripts for me, that help bring people to a certain level of understanding. And it depends on what we're working on what language and what scripts that I use. But I also provide exercises depending on who they are. Some people are very visual, so we're going to do vision boards. Some people, vision boards, no, but they're very analytical, so we're going to create a spreadsheet and plan, right? So it depends on who you are and what floats your boat as to what route you want to take. That's why I hesitate giving too many solutions in these episodes, because everyone is different. And there is a tool and approach for all of you.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Right.
Each and every one of us there is.
Right. So, but do you still do body testing?
So NLP, there's definitely some NLP elements in the approach that I use with clients. There is applied kinesiology of what's considered most normally known as muscle testing. So yes, we use muscle testing as a way of communicating and understanding what's happening at a subconscious belief level for an individual. And so for me, it's not so much predetermined scripts. I don't know what you mean by scripts.
Right.
The script more or less is exactly what the individual wants to experience in their life. And so it's what we call a belief statement or a goal statement that we then use various different sets of processes to access the subconscious mind, to where the limiting belief, we reprogram it or update it, if you will, to an empowering belief. And that empowering belief is that which is chosen by the individual that I'm working with.
Right.
And then there are different exercises, of course, just like you mentioned, that we discuss and explore and decide on, to then consciously use that new pathway that's been laid at the subconscious level.
Right. And because that just hones the skill, because it's a new pathway. Right. And again, it's one that you're going to try out. And I'm going to cough. Excuse me. So back to the statement, fear of the future. What are some of the other concrete examples that you could come up with that you've seen with some of your clients that you've been able to work with to help them with fear of the future? Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough, or, the I'm not type of statement.
With a lot of my clients, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, we start with, in their own words, but working with the concept of change is fun, change is safe, I trust change. So working in those areas, working with an individual to help them identify what it is that they do have available to themselves, those internal skill sets that they can depend on. Some people are they don't even know what they know about themselves. And one way that I've been able to assist individuals is through the exercise of them reaching out to people that do know them, good friends, good family members, and asking, what is it that you see in me that maybe I don't see in myself? What was, can you recall a situation where I was helpful or I navigated something? Can you, reflect back to me? so that they can see then what other people see first. And then we start creating this list, sometimes small, sometimes a bigger list of the skill sets they do have available to themselves on a day-to-day basis, and connecting with those. Sometimes we do some subconscious work with that. Sometimes we don't. Again, it's dependent upon the individual. Oftentimes for an individual that's really scared just about change or the unknown, those factors, is encouraging them to take a different route to work, encouraging them to, as silly as it may seem, try wearing different outfits, try that doesn't feel quite like you, but not too far out of your comfort zone that you just feel awkward in it, so baby steps in change, and baby steps in things that are slightly uncomfortable, changing where you, put the vitamins, changing your furniture around every so often, and just getting in the habit of when a change does occur, are you able to stay grounded and centered in yourself?
And right. And for me, I get a breath of fresh air when I change something up. It's like a feng shui feeling.
I do too, but for some people that's not the case. And so just experiencing small changes that they have the control over. They change when they get up in the morning. They change when they work out. They change the placing of the furniture. So there's a blending of choice. There's a blending of change occurring. And then there's a blending of possible uncomfortableness that they chose that they can then get used to. So looking at a person's life, day-to-day life, and talking about what possibilities could you start actively changing in small ways, just as a way to start experiencing change on a more frequent basis, and know that you're going to be okay.
And know that you're going to be okay. So I wrote down a brief, personal story. So, I was born and raised in Boston, and honestly, the mindset for the culture in the Northeast is you're born in this community, you get married and buy a house in this community, and you die in this community. And quite often you buy your family's home.
Okay.
So not a lot of change. And to drive 20 minutes is a long drive. And I had taken a trip out to San Diego. The reason why is not important, but the day that I got off that airplane, I smelt the air and thought, I need to move here from the smell. And my husband at the time was like, I'm not moving to California. So I got divorced, which was a big change. And I took a couple of trips out to California and decided that, and I was talking constantly about moving. And so I made a decision that come January, I'm either going to stop talking about moving or lay the plans to move. So I gave myself until, at this point in time, I'm making a decision. So my decision was to move. And I gave the place that I worked a 9-month notice because I was working on a project, wanted to wrap it up. And I also did not want them to plan for me in the next year, right? To know I was not going to be there. And people came up to me, I hear you're moving 3,000 miles away. I am. That is so brave. And I would look at them and say, I'll have a roof over my head, clothes on my back, and food in my mouth. What's there to be afraid of? Nothing. Right? And I didn't have a job. I mean, I did by the time I came out, but 9 months, no, I didn't have a job. But I knew that I would get one. I knew that I would live someplace, and I had clothes. Right? So I was not concerned with being alive. Right? My day-to-day Maslow's basic, and the fear of losing that was so instilled with those people who came to talk to me.
Right.
I thought, how sad that they will never have adventure in their life, right? You took a nosedive into a career, not knowing what was going to happen, and you traveled the world because of it. What an adventure you had, right? So,
For me personally, I was surrounded by change a lot growing up. It was just part of it. The moment I remember, there's a time in my life that I remember most where it was the hardest was when my parents got divorced at 10, or separated at least. I think they were divorced when I was 11. But that was the hardest time in my life where I felt like I really resisted the change. I fought it. And I remember my mom saying something about, you're a dancer and you're great at being flexible. Let's be flexible with life. She said something to that extent. And I don't think in the moment I really appreciated hearing that 11 years old that my parents were getting divorced, but it really did stick with me, the concept of it at least, because I was forced to experience change from that. Parents divorcing, I was back and forth between my parents' houses every week for quite a while until, I asked for what I needed, that I needed a little bit more stability. So staying at one parent's house majority of the time. We would travel to Kansas to go visit grandparents. I saw my dad have his own business. So there was an element of always the unknown there when you're self-employed, like the marketing aspect. And if you're a business owner, listening, you totally understand all the hats you have to wear as a business owner. And oftentimes, where are the clients coming from? So secondhand, I've noticed that about him, and I saw him taking on that risk and taking on his own skill sets, that he knew he had what it took. He trusted himself. He was willing to put himself out there. And if there was challenge or adversity that he met, he knew that he could get through it because of what was instilled within him, his work ethic, his willingness to try new things. When my mom got remarried, that was a change. Then my dad started dating, that was a change. So for me, change was very present in my life. So choosing to move to California on my own at, I think I was 20 at the time when I moved to San Diego for the first time.
You were a baby when I met you, yeah.
Yeah. It was at that point in my life, I'd been exposed to enough change and risk taking. And I was committed to myself enough, I think was the biggest thing too. I was committed to myself and my dream enough that I was willing to go give it everything I had.
You absolutely went, and I'm going to say, excuse me, balls to the wall. You did not hold back, right? At all. So there's a little story with Tashina, and then we'll cut this off. During that time, I was in a dance team that Tashina was a co-coach of. And so there were 3 coaches, and the other 2 coaches tend to act like children and fight. And at the end, had a survey, and someone mentioned that the only adult of the 3 of them was Tashina. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so right. Right. And you were the youngest.
Yep. I was the youngest there out of everybody.
Right. Out of everybody. Right. And that, that maturity, it was bred because you lacked, I won't say you lacked fear, but you were able to face fear in a constructive way at a very young age. Right. And it served you, and it serves everybody when you stop and think about, change is going to happen to you, and change is going to happen if you choose it.
And for you.
It's going to happen whether you choose it or not, because life is evolving. It's ever evolving. And if you learn to embrace what's coming, right, and be agile with what's coming, then you learn to experience the deliciousness that life has to offer, right? The excitement, the adventure. Last year I went on a road trip by myself, 10,000 miles, and I had people go, again, you're a woman going on a road trip by yourself. Like, well, I'm not going into the boonies or anything. Right. I will be calling every, family, letting them know where I'm at. So you'll know if I'm safe. I have MACE. I have legal aid or whatever, legal shield. I have AAA. I have tools for if something comes up, I can turn to them. Charge cards, MACE. What more do I need? Right? A friend of mine offered me a gun. I'm like, no, I'm not taking that. Thank you, but no, I'm not that nervous, right?
Yeah. My last hope that I'll put out there for anyone listening, where the concept of change, taking risk, fear of the unknown, fear of the future, is know that you always have choice in whatever happens and how you can choose to respond. And regardless of your upbringing, regardless of your past experience, you have the choice now to step into what type of life do you want to live from here on out. And that in and of itself is a choice you have to make. And what do you want to reflect back on the day when you are coming to the end of your time here? Do you want to look back on all the what ifs? Do you want to look back on, God, that was a little scary, but I'm so glad I did it.
Right.
So choose now and step into that empowered choice and do whatever it takes, even if it's such incremental baby steps that it doesn't seem like it's making a difference. No matter the size of the steps, start taking the steps to live the life that you really want and desire. That's my last moment of encouragement.
I love it, Tashina. I love the baby steps. I love the baby steps because at the end of the year, when you look back, you will be amazed at how many steps you actually took.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, Tashina, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more?
Yeah, my website is empowered2greatness.com. And I think you'll include that in your link section below, right, Gail?
Right.
And if anyone's interested in connecting, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, website, and I've got a free gift for you on my website, empowered2greatness.com/perfectionist kit. And you'll include that too, Gail, I believe, from the last time.
Yep.
But I would love to connect. I would love to chat with you. I offer complimentary 20-minute strategy calls for those that are interested in learning more about what I do and how I can help and support you overcome whatever challenges it is that you're facing and wanting to transform.
And she is wonderful to work with, I know. So thank you, everybody, for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. If this resonated with you, let us know. If a question came up, share it. Maybe we'll do another episode answering your question. If you know someone that could benefit from this, please share it out to them. Download, do all those nifty things, letting us know that this was the podcast for you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Gail.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.